Welcome to Behind the Badge with your special guest, Lieutenant Williams, your news source for all things police in the city of Fond du Lac.
So, number 6, this is an interesting one too. There is a lot of stress, but not the kind you think of. So, we have to deal with a wide variety of calls in police work, and most people say it's because of that wide variety of calls that's why we were very stressed. But those tend to, once you get a more seasoned officers, those tend to be a lot easier than you think on officers. It's actually the internal stresses that kind of go on. Now, this job does, hurt family relations because the hours you work and stuff like that, or you have some sort of internal fighting with, maybe there's like other officers that, kind of like, everyone's had a coworker they don't like. It's that same kind of thing. But we all have to deal with very stressful situations, and it kind of amplifies everything. So most of the stress is those internal things or family things that the job kind of causes, more than the job itself. But there is something to the fact that, I know there was a study, and I'll get the numbers wrong, but most people have one or two very traumatic events in their life that they have to deal with. Police officers are like in the hundreds or thousands of how many traumatic events. Not all of them pertain to them, but they still kind of absorb a little bit of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely with everything you have to go through. I want to kind of circle back to the beginning part of that with the stresses because of all the different types of calls. Is there a least favorite call that you have to go on? Besides something that's like super obvious.
Anything
like really
involving
bad.
children, if it's a child sexual assault or a suicide, those stick with you. And I can, like, as I'm talking to you, I can, like, 3 or 4 pop in my head right now. So, I mean, I've had to resuscitate babies, and I was unsuccessful, and those are the kind of things that do kind of sit with you. So yeah, those are definitely anything involving children. Then when you have children, it like kind of ups the degree.
Magnifies it even more. Yeah, definitely. Now we're gonna get into the top 5 as you're listening to Behind the Badge on News Talk 1450 KFIZ as Lieutenant Williams is in the studio.
So number 5 relates to everything that we just said. PTSD is real and it's commonplace. So officers that are exposed to these traumatic events, they take it with them, and it starts piling up. And I always say that if your normal life, your personal life is okay, you can deal with this. But if you're dealing with all this and your personal life is in shambles, it makes it very difficult. So it's kind of just a one thing: happy wife, happy life, happy all that stuff. Makes it all go a little bit better. Number 4, the people at the top often don't have a lot of practical experience. Now, this is kind of varying in degrees, but there is something about, a lot of people promote to upper positions after 3 to 5 years. They'll go to like a first line supervisor where they might get more road experience and then might go above and beyond. So you're talking about for road experience, having only like 3 to 5 years on. And that is a good amount of experience, but the more experience you get under you, the better you are. So you'll have, police officers that have been working the road for, 20 years and exposed to just so much more where they are the first line on those things. So it's kind of interesting but the supervisors become good at supervising as well during that time.
That makes sense.
Number 3, cops will go to extreme measures to avoid shooting people. And this is obviously the case, and this is where training has always been for my 20 years. This isn't something new. We always try to de-escalate. De-escalation is not some new technique or anything like that. It's been taught since day one that I've been in the police academy. So we always don't want to go through the stress of, we don't want to take anyone's life. And there's only specific circumstances when we can make that decision. Number 2, most cops never shoot anyone. And cops have not shot a lot of people, but definitely in the city of Fond du Lac. It was before my time, and I think we actually shot at someone, to my recollection. So it's not a commonplace. It can happen. A lot of times, we try all those de-escalation techniques, and it just doesn't work out for us.
Right. It's the last second, right? Last chance, right? It's the last thing to where you've tried every single thing else possible, and then if you have to, then you have to.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that time frame gets shrinks depending on if that person has hostages,
right,
or if they're shooting at us or at other people.
All right, we've made it to number 1.
Number 1, yeah. So I'm glad I didn't bring a lot because we're sitting pretty good on time here. So this is really important, and as a use of force instructor, this is something. Number one is use of force is not pretty. Like, it will never be pretty. I don't know who could tackle someone and make that look graceful, but it's not. I mean, if you look at the NFL,
Yeah.
I mean, it is hard hitting because it's actually less of a use of force to use as much force as far as like, go 100% in that tackle instead of going like half and then that person doesn't get tackled and then you have to like fight with them longer. So if I were to like tackle someone on the ground, I want to make sure I can do that, get them in cuffs as fast as possible to avoid me getting hurt, to avoid them getting hurt, and to make the struggle not last as long. And even when they're in handcuffs, they can still continue to fight with you and stuff. But it's never looked pretty, and I review use of force. I look at, I watch YouTube all the time. I've never seen a graceful, beautiful use of force yet. And I think a lot of times we expect it to look good. And in fact, it just never will. What we do is we try to use our voices first, try to de-escalate what we can. But there are some circumstances when talking just doesn't work anymore, and we do have to use force, unfortunately.
And you mentioned force like as in tackling, but at the same time you could think of the taser, right, as a way of force.
Yeah, and so it's varying degrees, and you kind of go up depending on what you're faced with. So yeah, tackling, and then you have like the taser, which you have to have active resistance or the threat of, and then like even like punching or using a baton, that's like up another level of continued resistance, and then you go all the way up to using our handgun, which is deadly force. And we are very strict, and that's going to probably be another whole radio program. We're going to talk about deadly force and what we need for that. But so it's no officer wants to go out there shooting one. I think these are really good because they all kind of run together too a little bit. And I just hope this helps the public and understand where we're coming from.
Yep, Lieutenant Williams, I appreciate the time this morning on Behind the Badge. I'll let you get out of here and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
You're listening to News Talk 1450.